Once upon a time, nestled in a quaint village at the edge of a vast forest, lived a poor old widow and her only son, named Thomas. They dwelled in a humble cottage with a thatched roof, surrounded by fields of golden wheat and fragrant wildflowers. The widow, whose name was Margaret, was a kind-hearted woman known throughout the village for her generosity and gentle nature. Despite the hardships they faced, Margaret and Thomas never complained. They cherished the simple joys of life and found solace in each other's company. Thomas, a diligent young man, worked tirelessly to provide for his mother. He tended to their small plot of land, tended to the livestock, and helped the villagers with various tasks whenever he could. Despite their poverty, Thomas dreamed of a better future for himself and his beloved mother. One fateful day, news spread through the village of a great famine that had swept across the land. Crops withered in the fields, and food became scarce. The villagers grew desperate as hunger gnawed at their bellies. Margaret and Thomas shared what little they had with their neighbors, even though they had barely enough to sustain themselves. But as the famine persisted, their supplies dwindled, and soon they found themselves on the brink of starvation. With heavy hearts, Margaret and Thomas decided that Thomas must seek his fortune in the city, where he might find work and bring back enough food to save them from starvation. Thomas hesitated to leave his mother alone, but she insisted, believing it was their only hope for survival. Before setting out on his journey, Margaret gave Thomas her most prized possession, a golden locket that had been passed down through generations of their family. She told him it would protect him on his travels and serve as a reminder of her love. With the locket safely tucked away, Thomas bid his mother farewell and set off into the unknown. The journey to the city was long and arduous, but Thomas pressed on, fueled by determination and the love for his mother. Upon reaching the city, Thomas faced many challenges. He sought work at every turn, but with so many others vying for the same opportunities, he struggled to find employment. Days turned into weeks, and still, Thomas remained jobless and disheartened. One evening, as Thomas wandered the bustling streets of the city, he came across a grand mansion adorned with shimmering lights and lively music pouring from its windows. Curious, Thomas approached and learned that the mansion belonged to a wealthy merchant who was hosting a lavish feast in celebration of his daughter's wedding. Feeling a pang of hunger in his stomach, Thomas hesitated at the gates of the mansion. He knew he had no place among the wealthy guests, but desperation drove him to seek whatever scraps he could find. As Thomas lingered outside the gates, a servant approached him and asked why he stood alone in the shadows. Thomas explained his plight, and to his surprise, the servant took pity on him and invited him inside, promising to feed him and provide him with a warm bed for the night. Grateful for the kindness shown to him, Thomas followed the servant into the mansion, where he was greeted with open arms and treated as an honored guest. He feasted on sumptuous dishes and drank fine wine, his hunger finally sated after weeks of deprivation. As the night wore on, Thomas found himself drawn to the merchant's daughter, a beautiful young woman named Emily. They shared stories and laughter, and before long, Thomas felt a connection unlike any he had ever known. The following morning, Thomas bid farewell to the merchant and his daughter, his heart heavy with longing. He knew he could not stay in the city forever, for his mother awaited his return. With renewed determination, Thomas set out on the journey back to his village, carrying with him the memory of Emily's kindness and the hope of a brighter future. Along the way, he encountered many trials and tribulations, but he pressed on, guided by the love for his mother and the promise of home. Finally, after many days of travel, Thomas arrived back in the village to find his mother waiting for him with open arms. Margaret wept tears of joy at the sight of her beloved son, and together they embraced, their bond stronger than ever before. Thomas recounted his adventures in the city, sharing tales of the wealthy merchant's mansion and the kindness shown to him by Emily and her family. Margaret listened intently, her heart filled with pride for her brave son. In the days that followed, Thomas worked tirelessly to provide for his mother, using the knowledge and skills he had gained during his time in the city. With hard work and perseverance, he was able to bring prosperity to their humble home, and they lived happily ever after, surrounded by love and abundance. And as for the golden locket that Margaret had given to Thomas, it remained a cherished keepsake, serving as a reminder of their enduring bond and the strength of a mother's love.